Hey everybody, Rich Lovell with the Vacaville Baseball Barn, Master Instructor with the Epstein Hitting System, and I want to talk about style and technique again today. And I've done a video on this before, but I want to really kind of narrow down on a couple of things. Style, what is it? What does it do for our swing? And should we make corrections in that? Let me address that first before I get into the technique portion. And style, as we define it, is everything that we do in the batter's box prior to landing into our front foot. That is when technique starts. Everything before that, your stance and your stride, that is all style. That has nothing to do with correcting a flaw in your technique. And this is what I mean by that. If I'm in my style and I happen to have an open stance, and then I tend to do, let's say in my launch, my front shoulder is up. And that's part of your technique. Well, going back into my style by maybe closing my stance or lifting my hands higher or whatever the case may be, that is not going to correct that flaw in my technique. What my style does for me, it gets me comfortable in the batter's box. It allows me to be relaxed as I'm looking at the pitcher. I've already gone through all my pre-hitting series or steps prior to coming to the batter's box. And once I get here, I want to have a routine that I step in. Either I'm in with a closed stance, or I'm in with an open stance, or I'm neutral. I either take a big stride, short stride, no stride. I want to be comfortable on all those things. But what I don't want to do when I'm practicing or I'm trying to correct a particular technique flaw is go into my style and say, hey, I need to change this up because it's affecting. That's not necessarily the case. We want to make sure that we're comfortable. If you're comfortable, you leave that alone. Take the style completely out, and then we transition into the technique. And remember, technique is once our front foot lands, this is our launch position, then we get into our approach, contact, and power V. Those four positions are our technique. That is what we need to correct. And what is the problem and issue? Let me make sure I reemphasize one thing, that can I make a correction in my style and it may affect somewhat of my technique? Yes, and this. In my style, I just start a little bit earlier. So let's make sure we understand that. If I start a little bit earlier, I'm able to keep my front shoulder down longer. So in my technique, if I do that and I land into my front foot and I've got bat drag, I don't necessarily want to raise my hands up or open my stance up in my style. I want to make sure that I am keeping my front shoulder down and keeping this back elbow back, and I go through. If it happens to be in my approach where my barrel is down like this, I need to go back into the step before in the technique step of my launch position and figure out where I am. Because typically, the position before affects the positions after, obviously. So keep that in mind as you're working on your swing. If you're trying to get comfortable in the batter's box, work on your style. That's perfectly acceptable. But if there's a problem with making contact with the ball, it's somewhere within your technique and you need to focus on that. To change your technique, you need to identify what it is, come up with a drill that will help you do that, and it's usually, again, the technique that applies before the flaw. And then you work on that without a live pitch, either a swing away, impact bag, or even a tee, and that way you can work on that specific flaw and get through it, and you need somewhere 1,000, maybe 2,000, 3,000 repetitions to release that old muscle memory, retrain your brain to tell your body what you need to do. Hopefully that helps you out. If you have any questions on that, send me a quick message. Give us a like on this YouTube channel, share us with your friends, and then give us a shout out on Facebook.